Welcome to the Laverne Church of the Brethren's weekly audio message. Here at the Laverne Church of the Brethren, we create a Christian community called by Christ to be inclusive, caring, and peace-minded. We affirm that people of any race, ethnic identity, gender identity, sexual orientation, ability, age, economic status, faith tradition, or life situation are welcome in our congregation. We believe in compassionate service, stewardship of creation, respect for diversity, and nonviolent reconciliation for differences among all people, nations, and faith traditions. We claim no creed but the New Testament as exemplified by the life of Christ. We strive to follow the way of Jesus. And through these efforts, we seek to grow ever closer to the mind and heart of God. And now let us ground ourselves as we enter into today's message.
So the second set of scriptures this morning come from the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verses 26 through 29, and then John 15, verses 4 and the first part of 5. Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet the heavenly one feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? And which of you by worrying can add a single hour to your span of life? And why do you worry about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin, yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not clothed like one of these. And from John 15, abide in me, as I abide in you. Just as the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who abide in me and I in them bear much fruit.
I want to share with you a little bit about my dog, Barley. Barley follows me from room to room most mornings. He brings me a ball that I sometimes fail to throw. He puts his paws on my lap while I'm working, just to check in and give me a kiss. Sometimes in the afternoon, he finds a patch of sun on the floor, flips onto his back, belly up, feet in the air, and falls into a sleep so complete that if I have the awareness to see it, I laugh and revel in his sweetness. Then at some point, his stomach growls, and he gets up and stands by his bowl with an expression that demands attention. He is entirely present for his own life, every hour of it. The playing, the checking in, the sleeping, the hunger, he is there for all of it with his whole self. Barley consistently reminds me of something researcher Lisa Miller calls awakened awareness, a way of being fully present for life as it's unfolding. Lisa Miller is a neuropsychologist who has spent years studying our brains. Her research suggests that humans have two fundamentally different ways of experiencing reality. We have two different neural networks that shape how we perceive and engage with life. She calls them the achieving brain and the awakened brain. The achieving brain is incredibly useful. It helps us focus, it solves problems, it organizes information, it helps us accomplish different things. My dog Barley is very effective at using this part of his brain to accomplish his goals of walks and treats and attention, which is a challenge for my own achieving brain that wants to get other things done. Our ability to strive has accomplished many beautiful things. Families are sustained this way, communities are strengthened this way, and justice movements are built this way. But when we live our life in our achieving brain most of the time, something begins to happen. Our focus actually narrows. Our thoughts circle around what still needs to be done. We replay the past or try to control a future that cannot be controlled. We begin believing that if we simply work a little harder, think a little smarter, or plan a little better, we can keep uncertainty at bay. Before long, our striving can leave us exhausted. Our self-worth can slowly become attached to what we produce rather than who we are. The achieving brain is a gift. It was simply never meant to be our only home. Lisa Miller describes this other neural pathway, this set of neural networks in our brain that she calls the awakened brain. It allows us to experience life as it unfolds rather than constantly trying to manage life. Like Mr. Rogers' invitation earlier, we can just be responsive to this day and to what life is showing us right in that moment. In awakened awareness, our perception becomes more spacious and expansive, and you might even be able to practice it right now, just being here. We literally see more choices and possibilities, more meaning and purpose, more flashes of insight and creative impulses and leaps of a sense that we are guided. This neural network helps us experience deeper connection and love, where we can be there for that ever-flowing stream of love with one another, with creation, and with the sacred. Miller says this is our spiritual core, the part of us that experiences awe and wonder and compassion and unity. It reminds us that we are more than our accomplishments, that we belong, that we are loved, that we are guided, and that we are part of something much larger than our individual striving. What I find especially hopeful is that this capacity is already within us. It's part of our birthright. Like any neural pathway, it can be strengthened because our society tends to strengthen the achieving part of our brain. Miller found that practices most likely to cultivate this awakened awareness within us are actually the very practices found across the world's spiritual traditions. Practices that help us become present. Practices that help us cultivate compassion or experience awe or awaken to a deep sense of belonging and unity within the web of life. Practices that remind us that we are held and guided, loved, and never alone. Long before neuroscience could image our brain and explore all these neural networks, Jesus was inviting people into awakened awareness. For example, he points to the birds and lilies as teachers of a different way of being. Consider the birds, he says. Look at the lilies. They do not toil or anxiously strive or endlessly manage the future. Instead, he invites us to join a different rhythm of creation, the rhythms of birdsong and trees and interdependence and belovedness, presence, and enoughness. Nature does not strive in the way humans strive. Trees don't hurry. Birds don't optimize, streams don't force themselves to flow and move forward. Perhaps this is why so many of us feel something shift when we stand beneath a tree or watch birds or sit beside water. We breathe differently, time slows, the constant inner narration quiets, and for a moment, we can simply inhabit life rather than manage it. Jesus' birds and lilies remind us that we are actually held within a larger reality that does not require us to prove or achieve anything to ensure our belonging and worth. In John's Gospel, Jesus offers another practice that supports our awakened brain. He asks us to contemplate, I am the vine, you are the branch, and then follows with the invitation to practice abiding. Abide in me as I abide in you. To abide is to remain with, to dwell in, to inhabit fully the moment. Abide in me as I abide in you, and you will bear much fruit. Achievement culture says produce fruit. Jesus says abide. This is where spacious love and a sense of oneness, meaning, and purpose take root. The fruit comes after abiding, not before. Birds and lilies, vines and branches. These are practices that cultivate this awakened awareness that's running in our neural networks in our brain. And so what practices awaken in you that deep awareness that you are held by love? Maybe it's prayer, maybe it's being with loved ones. What helps you experience that life has meaning, that you belong, that you are never alone and part of this loving universe? Maybe that walk in nature, maybe here in worship. What practices encourage you to be with life as it's unfolding? Maybe noticing your breath or just the colors in this room. Significantly, awakened awareness is not simply a private endeavor that ends in our own inner peace. Instead, it brings us toward relationship, toward a sense of being with. Miller's research found that when people regularly dip into experiences that remind us of connection and unity and oneness with all that is, it consistently produces in us more generosity, more service, and a greater capacity to recognize the sacred in the person before us. The awakened brain doesn't simply help us feel better in the midst of our joys or in the midst of our own struggles and sorrows. It also helps us become better neighbors. When we are present and loving to ourselves, we can finally be present to another in a way that bubbles up from a deep well within rather than from our striving to be a good neighbor. We can truly see that the other in their fullness without effort. We can truly see that if we listen, we can listen without already being somewhere else. We can stay with another person's joy or sorrow instead of trying to fix it or hurry past it. We become people who know how to abide. As I was finishing up this first draft of a sermon, my dog Barley popped up onto my lap, looked directly into my eyes and licked my face, and he said so clearly, "It's time now for us to spend some time together." If you could have heard my inner script, it went something like, "But I'm so close to being done, Barley. Please wait. Don't start barking. Can you give me another hour?" However, it seemed really, really wrong to give in to my striving and achieving while writing about presence. I looked back at him and toggled over to my awakened brain. I could see him now. So I gathered up his leash and ball and we headed out to the park. It was another precious opportunity to practice abiding with, to enjoy the spaciousness of nothing to achieve, to learn from Barley's awakened awareness, to experience love and being cherished because we were together, to share a sense of oneness and unity, and ultimately to be a good neighbor to one another. This is the ebb and flow of cultivating our awakened brain. May we continue learning to dwell in awakened awareness, awake enough to know ourselves to be loved, awake enough to recognize the sacred all around us, and awake enough to be good news for our neighbor. Amen. May we be blessed with an awareness that we are loved and cherished, guided and held within a benevolent universe of divine love. And when our abiding there overflows with love, may we share it with others. Amen.
We're so glad that you listened to the message today. If you're looking for an open and affirming, peace-loving, and justice-seeking congregation, consider visiting us for in-person worship on Sundays at 9:30 a.m. We'd love to meet you.